So good afternoon. I'm here with Jared Maley from Teaneck High School. Good afternoon, Jared.
Good afternoon, Leah.
Thank you for joining me for a virtual cup of coffee here on this rainy Friday. What do you teach, Jared?
I teach 3 sections of US 1 honors. I teach 1 section of freshman global history and 1 section of an elective religion and ethics.
Awesome. And how long have you been teaching for?
I've been teaching for 15 years now.
Great. So that's awesome. So you've been at Teaneck for quite a while now.
I have my whole career,
Great.
and I love it.
Awesome. So we were just having a conversation about how you're really giving your students some really important 21st century skills and adapting writing to what it kind of looks like today outside of a traditional essay. You want to talk a little bit about your blog project?
Sure. So, as we were discussing just a moment ago, I was really inspired by this certificate program that I was working in at Montclair State University. And one class in particular, digital writing, put me on to this world of blogging. And the website that we were using was WordPress. And I had become really efficient in it. And I decided that if there was something I was going to turnkey, it was going to be this, to bring this project to my students at the high school level. And it inspired me so much because I began to realize that through blogging, I was going to be able to accomplish something with my students that I had really felt was missing in my educational practice. And that was enabling students to exercise their own voice, to really find and develop their own voice through writing. And this world of blogging really opened up that avenue for me.
Sure.
And this world of blogging is something that gave students more control over their writing than I think they were used to having. And for some of them, it was a little bit difficult at the beginning because it was something that they got to really self-direct. There weren't many moments where I was controlling what they needed to write. Instead, what I did is I gave them a number of different formats that they could plug into. They can choose an area of interest that we were studying in any particular unit to write about, and they'd be able to draft an argument. They would be able to compare and contrast. They would be able to summarize. They'd be able to run an analysis. They'd be able to frame their own question and blog on that. And as this went on, students became more and more comfortable. And what I began to notice was they really were starting to find their own voice in a way that my other assignments in the past hadn't been able to produce. And it was starting to just get really exciting. And one of the extra layers to this WordPress blogging is the opportunity for students to read one English work. So what started to happen is the audience for students began to grow. And for a long time, students are used to an audience of one. And that one person is their teacher. And there's this really quiet exchange. The student's given the assignment, they write it, they bring it in, they hand it to their teacher, their teacher takes it back, they grade it in private, and then they bring it back to them. And sometimes they'll even hand it back in and by turning it over so no one else could see. Well, this blew that world apart. And the audience all of a sudden got a lot bigger. And once the audience gets bigger, students feel naturally a little bit more pressure. And it's a good pressure because they're paying more attention to the words they're choosing. They're paying more attention to the ideas that they're expressing. And what they also began to realize is that what each one had to say was something pretty amazing. And all of a sudden, we didn't just have a textbook that we were drawing on for information and knowledge. We had one another that we were drawing on for information and knowledge and experiences, because so many students, again, in an effort to find their own voice, they're coming to you with these funds of knowledge,
Yeah.
these backgrounds,
Yeah.
these cultures, each mind being unique and meeting this history content differently. And when students got an opportunity to see how one another were engaging with history and wrestling with history, it added even more energy because they're able to log on to one another's websites, and read one another's blogs and even comment on them. So this really just it changed things in such a positive way.
That's amazing. And I would imagine it gave the kids, like, they wanted to be proud of their work because they knew that their audience was big enough that, it was their peers. And we know how kids are. They want to do well by their peers, and they don't want to be seen as anything less. And so all of a sudden, when that audience grows, it kind of like ups the stakes a little bit. And I think it's very apropos for the 21st century because, blog writing is what people do these days. And I know you said before also some kids have adapted this idea and gone off and created their own like travel blogs, and they've used the skill they learned in your class in a history class, but they've applied it to other sort of formats.
That's right. Yeah. They have taken these ideas, and really two things. One thing, I began to notice the way students were talking about blogging in class, because they'd even come up and acknowledge, saying, "Mr. Malley, this is something that takes me a little bit longer because more people are looking at it.
Right, yeah.
It's a bigger deal." And the other thing they started saying is when we'd be discussing content in class, they would raise their hand and say, "Can we blog about this?"
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's a pretty awesome thing as a teacher, because they're starting to get energized about writing, about work, that they're taking home and they're going to do more of.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, the real moment of validation came when students took these blogs after our year was over, and turned them into permanent fixtures in their lives. And students, like you said, they've used these blogs for their own interests. One loved movies, and he decided, I'm going to create a blog and write movie reviews. Yeah. It's pretty awesome. Impressive. I've followed him.
That's cool.
Since. There's another student who started up his own religion blog.
Sure.
And just loves writing about his religion and his practice and reflecting on his religious readings. And other students have launched travel blogs and fashion blogs. So this was a tool that definitely really kicked everybody into the 21st century
awesome.
In a way that was, again, it makes it meaningful. It's not just the acquisition of history here, but it's the acquisition of a skill that's going to be potentially enormously beneficial for these students going forward.
That's awesome. It's content's important, but the skill is also equally as important, if not more. So thank you for sharing that project. I think that's something that we can all consider for our classes, to be kind of more up with the times. And I can't think of the last time kids asked to write an essay about something. So I think that's validation that this is a great project. So thank you for sharing a virtual cup of coffee with me. And I hope to swing by your classroom when this is all over. All right.
Thank you. I look forward to it.